So in chapter 15, we covered step 1 of the writing process. So now in chapter 16, we're going to go to step 2, which is outlining and organizing. And in my way of thinking, outlining and organizing is a part of pre-writing. So it's all those initial steps, the planning and pre-writing that happens before you start drafting. All right, so as you move from pre-writing to organizing, you're giving structure and organization to the ideas that free writing and other pre-writing strategies can give you. So in pre-writing, you're just kind of gathering ideas and information, and that's about it. In organizing and outlining, you're going to actually start giving structure to that. So as you do so, you're going to start determining the order of your thoughts within your paragraphs, and then you're going to start organizing how your paragraphs are laid out in your entire paper, And the textbook refers to this as the framework. And that, again, that's how you order everything. It's the frame of your paper. And then there's most of the chapter is spent on this 3-step process of organizing. So that's what I'm going to spend a little bit of time on right now. So in step 1, you're going to circle the ideas and information that you generated in your pre-writing that matches your main point or your thesis statement. So remember, in pre-writing, you don't just, gather those ideas. You are actually formulating your main point, which, as I've already said, is your thesis statement too. Okay, so you have to kind of narrow down what ideas you generated so that they fit that main point. Now, as the book says, you might want to work out a system of highlighting the points that you do want to use, but don't erase what you don't necessarily use because you might end up needing it. I've done that before. Sometimes you can highlight quotes that you want, and it's much better to have more information than less. So don't just cross out your thoughts and make them impossible to read. You want to be able to go back and say, well, what were some of my other ideas? And you might have a light bulb moment. I don't know. But just keep an open mind with the other thoughts that you generate that you don't think you might use initially. And then once you circle those ideas, you want to find what you have, find the strongest things that you have and how much support you have for those ideas. And generally, the more support you have is what's going to determine how strong those ideas are. But you have to be able to develop your whatever ideas you choose in multiple ways. So you really want to pinpoint your strongest and kind of create a hierarchy of them, really. Because in some types of writing, you're going to want to organize based on your strongest point first or your strongest point last. You're going to want to look at, okay, what can I say the most about? What can I say, the next most about, and so on and so forth. So not only do you need to determine the ideas that fit your thesis, you need to identify the strongest ideas that fit your thesis. And then, as you do this, begin thinking of how you're going to support and develop those ideas. So these ideas are probably more of your topic sentence, whereas your main point over your whole paper is the thesis, okay? So you've already determined what your thesis is. You're now, of course, trying to determine the strongest ideas to support that thesis, and these are your topic sentences, okay? So they're the main point that you're going to talk about in each body paragraph. And don't be afraid to step back and start over at any point. This is why planning is so important. Right now, it's a matter of erasing words and going back and thinking as opposed to rewriting an entire paragraph. So the more work you do now, the easier your writing and your revision is going to be later. So don't be afraid to just own up and say, okay, this really isn't a good idea. I don't have much support for it. Let me start over and find a new idea. All right, so step 2, after you've circled some things and try to find some hierarchy within them, you want to group common ideas and information together. And this is how you're going to form your paragraphs, because you want a main idea in each paragraph, which is your topic sentence, but then you need ideas and information and support in order to develop that topic sentence. Again, that's how you get a paragraph. Okay, so group together the ideas and information that are related, and you're going to start grouping things. So you might have 5, you might have only 3, but maybe those 3 common groups are quite big, and so you're going to want to devote at least 2 paragraphs per group. That's what you're working with right now. You are trying to group things together to see how they all fit together. They have to be related. Just like your whole paper needs a thesis statement, all of your body paragraphs need a main point. Okay? So this is the point when you get to choose how to organize them. Just make sure you're logical in how you do it. What support do you want where? What ideas do you want where? And at this point, you're organizing within the paragraph, not your paper as a whole. Okay, so say you've got a topic sentence. Then you've got 5 different supporting points. What order are those supporting points going to be in your paragraph? That's what you have to decide, and do it logically. Don't throw it in there. Think about how you can transition from one to the next. Do you want to start strong and end weak? Do you want to start weak and end strong? What do you want to do? It's up to you. Just be logical about it. Make a rhetorical choice and do it intentionally to give your paper a better strength instead of, oh, no, it's just an accident. I just kind of threw it in there. Okay, so organize them with a purpose. And then once you have those groups together, you can write a topic sentence if you haven't already. Maybe you're like, I don't know what my main point is going to be, but I know that these ideas are related. Okay, this is how I can organize them. Oh, here's the main point that ties them all together. And then you can develop your topic sentence, sorry. Okay, so right now you're grouping. Step 2 is grouping after circling. Step 3, organizing. Okay, so now you have groups or paragraphs that you're working with. You then have to decide what order you want to put those groups and paragraphs, just as you did with the ideas and support within your paragraph. So this is when you step back and kind of look at your essay as a whole. Which paragraph do you want to go first? Which paragraph do you want to come last? How are you going to transition from one paragraph to the next? These are all things you have to think about. That kind of goes with the second bullet. What do you want to emphasize most? So on and so forth. Now remember, the order of your paragraphs should be reflective of your topic or your purpose. So think about what you learned about organization with narrative. Most of the time in narrative, it's going to be chronological. So your body paragraphs and the ideas within your body paragraphs are going to be in a chronological order. With description, there was a whole variety of different ways to organize, whether it was going from left to right, in and out, things like that. You have to decide how you're going to organize that kind of information. Whereas with argument, you might want to start with your weakest point and build to your strongest point. You might want to start with your strongest point and go the opposite. It is totally up to you, but you should be able to remember enough about the different types of organization that they really do depend on what you're doing. Okay. All right. So moving on to outlining. That was a 3-step process the chapter uses for organizing. Sorry. Whew, organization is huge. It really, really is. It's just as big as your focus and your development within your paper. So when you outline, I would recommend using the 3-step approach we just discussed and outlining at the same time. You don't have to. You can do the 3-step approach first and then outline based on that information, or you can do it at the same time, which I think would be very effective. And don't worry about the form that your outline takes. It so does not matter. You don't have to use the Roman numerals and the capital letters versus the lowercase letters. You don't have to do that. You can simply do bullets. Just differentiate between your thesis statement, your topic sentence, and your different points of support and development. Okay, so keep indenting as you outline. Hopefully that makes sense. You should all know what an outline looks like. Okay, so just do whatever works for you. It really doesn't matter. Outlining is probably my most common form of planning when I would write in college. And I would just do whatever I wanted to do. You don't have to worry about it being formal. No one's going to see it but you. And the reason I like outlining so much is that it gives you the skeleton of your paper. So again, you can write out a working thesis statement at the very top. You can then write out each individual thesis statement, or excuse me, topic sentence for your body paragraphs. That way you know each main point that you want to discuss in the rest of your paper. And it's so easy to look back and say, okay, does this main point support my thesis statement? Yes, it does. And then you continue with the support and ideas that you're going to use within each paragraph. And then, okay, does this point support my topic sentence? Yes. Okay. What about this one? Okay. Yes. What about this one? Oh, no, it kind of goes off topic. How can I change it? How can I fix it? Okay. That's how you can see the skeleton of your paper without having to write a single complete sentence. You can write your, and I would recommend writing your thesis statement and your topic sentences as full sentences, but you don't have to. You just need to know what direction you're headed. So again, you can see your whole paper in front of you without writing a whole bunch. Okay, you've got your main points. If you're using outside research, you can have the quotes in there that you're going to use. This is the stage that is so much easier to manipulate than after you have drafted it. Okay, and the drafting is when you add the meat to your paper. That's when you fill in the gaps. That's when you transition. That's when you give description and development, things like that. So again, it's much easier to manipulate a skeleton than it is a body. Okay, that's kind of gross, but it's true. Okay, I've kind of already mentioned this. It allows you to see your paper as a whole. So you can see what your topic sentences are, what your thesis statements are, or thesis statement is, and where you could improve and where you need to develop a little bit. If you see that you've got a body paragraph that only has 2 points to it, you're going to want to develop that a bit more. Or see where you can combine it or start over. I don't know. But you should have at least 5-6 different points per topic sentence. And again, when you're looking at it as a skeleton, it's much easier to fix and develop right there. It's also, again, where you can start planning your transitions and how you're going to move from one idea to the next. And then there's reverse outlining. Reverse outlining is an activity I'm going to have you do later in the quarter. And to make sure that you are not losing sight of what your outline intended after you start drafting, you can actually outline your paper after it's already written. You can identify your thesis statement in your introduction. You can identify your topic sentences and your support, blah, 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 after you've already written your whole paper. And then you look at that outline of what your paper actually says, because if you write an outline before you write, that's what you're hoping to do. Say you get writing and you completely space out and go off on a completely different tangent, and then your outline in your paper doesn't match up. But with reverse outlining, you're outlining exactly what your paper says. So if there's an error, it'll help you too. So we'll talk more about that later. So the bottom line, pre-writing, outlining, or organizing are completely worth your time. It's going to save you so much time with revising if you just do a little bit of work ahead of time before you start drafting. So if you have any questions about any of this, do not hesitate to ask and really spend some time with your papers. At this point, you're going to be looking probably more toward your final paper, but it still works. Think about what points you need to add, where you need more support, things like that. So in the future, make sure you spend a lot of time before you start drafting. So again, if you have any questions, let me know.